Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the KXAN Live studios. I'm Billy Gates, and it is a Football Friday. Typically, we do this stream on Thursday, but we moved it to Friday this go-around to catch you up on all the playoff action happening. It's the second round of the Texas High School Football Playoffs, and we've got a number of Austin area teams still alive and still playing, still trying to make it to AT&T Stadium there in Arlington for the state title games there in mid-December. With me to talk about it is, of course, KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace. And Roger, before we get going, I have to do a little bit of housekeeping. While we do broadcast this live over Facebook and KXAN.com, we also put this on YouTube. So if you are watching it on YouTube, please consider to give us a like and subscribe to the KXAN YouTube page. Had to plug it in there, Roger.
Yeah, I mean, we'll provide content wherever we can. And this is fun, Billy, because, one of the high school football sayings in Texas, if you get to Thanksgiving and you have to practice on Thanksgiving, you've had a pretty good season. Right. Winners tonight, last night,
yes,
and tomorrow, they'll get to have that Thanksgiving practice and keep playing.
Before we get to tonight's games, let's get you caught up on Central Texas action from Thursday. Vandegrift just blew out San Antonio Sotomayor down at the Alamo Dome, 51-0. You may have saw Lavernia and Austin LBJ on KBVO last night as the KBVO game of the week. Lavernia, that offense, Roger, let's just go back to us here real quick and take stock in that Lavernia game. They beat Austin LBJ 13-10, and you couldn't ask for more different styles of offenses between those two teams.
Well, you have to say, Billy, they did not complete a pass, and they don't run that slot T like Liberty Hill.
No.
But they were without their starting quarterback, but they had a offensive line and running game. And you feel for LBJ and Joe Rawls and his team, undefeated coming in, but just too many mistakes in the red zone, had a chance to separate early, couldn't come up with the touchdowns. They took that lead, had the lead at the half, and got the ball to start the second half, but Lavernia got an early stop and then took the lead. And who would have thought in a game in 2024, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns in a high school football playoff game?
No kidding. And that just how that unfolded with Lavernia missing a 46-yard try, but LBJ got hit with a pretty rare penalty, a defensive delay of game penalty. That was for imitating the snap count, was what the White Hat officials said over the PA system there. They get 5 yards closer. Lavernia kicker Luke Green just buries a 41-yard field goal. I mean, that thing probably could have went 50. He hammered that thing.
Yeah, and the 46-yarder was wide. It wasn't short. Yeah. So, I mean, special teams, opportunistic, and then when they had to run the football to run the clock out, they were able to do that. And a great season for LBJ, loaded with talent, but just a frustrating night where they couldn't get a conversion when they needed it. And so number 2 team in 4A Division I bows out last night. You mentioned Vandegrift, no problem at the Alamo Dome. In fact, they'll be back at the Alamo Dome next Saturday. Don't have their opponent, but they've got their stadium. And then Wimberley taking care of business over Rockport Fulton last night.
Yeah, and that game wasn't, 63-21, not really that close. That's a nice trip. Whenever you go to Corpus Christi and win by 40, that makes the ride home a lot easier.
Yeah, no kidding. That's Rockport Fulton's backyard, and they took care of business there. So we've got 2 teams advancing into the third round, and obviously tonight, full slate of ball games, including one live on KBVO. Yes. We're going to talk about Westlake and San Antonio Brennan.
Yes.
Both teams with just one loss. Brennan, by the way, they've beaten everybody on their schedule because they lost to San Antonio Reagan, and then they beat them in the bye-district. So be an interesting matchup at Burger Stadium tonight.
Yeah, and you usually, we're used to seeing Westlake and Brennan later in the playoffs. I mean, typically that's been a regional final game here the past couple seasons, maybe play that game at DKR or something, but now we're in the second round and we're seeing that game. Let's get to some notable games here in the area, like we were saying. Westlake and Brennan from Burger Stadium here in Austin. That game will be on KBVO tonight. The Westlake production crew will take care of that for us. We're just going to put it on screens around the area. Lake Travis takes on San Antonio Johnston at 7:30 there at Rattler Stadium in San Marcos. Dripping Springs takes on San Antonio Harlan, 7:30 down at Canyon High School in New Braunfels. Liberty Hill and Brenham, that's going to be a good one, Roger. We've been talking about that That'll be at 7 p.m. at the Field. And then Georgetown's got to go up north to take on Frisco Reedy at 7 p.m. up in Corsicana. We were talking off air about Liberty Hill and Brenham. That should be a good one.
Yeah, Brian, the Cubs are top 10. We know how good Liberty Hill is, although maybe not as dominant this year than years past. But again, district teams, now I know we have realignment, but you plan for that slot T offense. So now Brenham with a week's worth of work to get ready for it. That should be fun tonight at the Field. And the other aspect here, Billy, is just what a great night this is going to be. Just a perfect evening. We had a perfect evening last night in Seguin. So it should be fun all over Central Texas to see which teams are emerging. And you know those kids are fired up, Billy. They had their last day of school today before their Thanksgiving break. And all they have to think about is football and family and fun and food.
It's always a good time. It's always a good time, especially when that last bell rings, you know,
right.
And you go to practice and go to your final walkthroughs or whatever before your playoff game. But then, like you said, it's all about football and food at that point.
Yeah, we go down the more classifications and more ball games throughout. We got an interesting one. Mason, the puncher, kind of a fringe team in our market. Mostly it's primarily in San Angelo,
sure,
but they play Weimar up in Georgetown. That's the cool part about this time of year is you can go watch a high school game with two teams from 50, 60, 70 miles away because this is a neutral site, a good meeting point, and then a good stadium. And talking to coaches, they want their kids to get to play at nice stadiums. That's why LBJ was willing to go down to Seguin on a Thursday night because they could secure that stadium. And I'm sure Weimar and Mason, a couple of 2A schools, will enjoy playing at Birkelbach Stadium tonight up in Georgetown.
I was going to say, that's probably one of the just to recap, local games, Westlake and Brennan, that's going to be here at Burger Stadium on KBVO. Lake Travis and Johnson out in San Marcos. Dripping Springs and San Antonio Harlan at New Braunfels. And then Georgetown, this game isn't really local, but Georgetown is having just a tremendous season. They're in 5A D1, and they're going to take on Frisco Reedy.
And the other thing you look at, Billy, is you're 2 games away from some matchups. Lake Travis and Westlake could meet in a couple of weeks. Dripping Springs and Vandergrift could meet in a couple of weeks. So that's the other kind of part of this is that you get teams that, local teams. And the way I say it is it circles back. You go away and you play teams. You go south if you're in Region 4, you go north if you're in Region 2, and then you could have some local matchups later in the playoffs.
Yep, that is it. All comes back. I mean, we had Lake Travis, Westlake last year in the regional final, so that was
back in the day, Billy, they played a couple at DKR, and they haven't played high school games there lately. But we've had some playoff games at DKR, and we've had a Lake Travis Cedar Park playoff game back in the day. That was a lot of fun. But we've got great stadiums in the area, and that's why we've had some great 6A semifinals at the Palace up north. You get a Dallas team and a Houston team, and it's a good neutral site. So again, if you're just a high school football fan, there's probably a game pretty close to you that you can go out and see on a beautiful evening.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be a great one. All right, well we'll leave it there. Be sure to tune in to KBVO tonight for Westlake and Brennan. The Joe Taylor, Ricky Doyle, and the crew will have that for you. Those Westlake student workers that put on that production. It's pretty neat for a bunch of students that get to do that kind of production. We have them all the time on KXAN.com during the season, but since it's playoff time, we got to let NFHS Network take care of it. But we can put them on TV, and that production they put together, Roger, it's pretty advanced for a bunch of high school kids helping put together.
It's outstanding. I mean, you would never know it when you watch it. Just looks like a game you would watch on TV, and credit to them, and it's great that we have this partnership so we can bring you such a high quality. And I know it's great that you have all these streaming services because you want to be able to watch your game. You want your grandparents, people out of the area, out of state, but to have that quality of a production that can go over the air on linear television, fewer and farther between getting football games in high school on linear TV. So yeah, hats off to Westlake and that Shap TV crew that puts these games on.
Absolutely, they do a great job. You can check out all of the second round matchups. I've got a big old list of them on KXAN.com. That includes literally every playoff game in Texas, not just Central Texas, in the state of Texas. You can find the times and the sites there if you're curious, and then we'll have all kinds of updates for you on air and online as the weekend progresses. There will be some games on Saturday too. I believe Pflugerville has a Saturday game as well.
Yep.
So the playoffs take the entire weekend, which we wouldn't have it any other way. So with that being said, we'll end it right here for this high school football preview on KXAN Live. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again very soon.